Ladies and gentlemen, let me ask you a question. How many of you have ever felt the weight of the world pressing down on your chest like you're carrying invisible chains nobody else can see? How many nights have you laid awake with your mind racing, heart pounding, feeling like if one more thing goes wrong, you might just break? What if I told you that stress is not your enemy, but your signal? That it's the very fuel that, if harnessed, can turn your exhaustion into energy, your fear into focus, and your chaos into clarity. Tonight, you're going to discover how to flip the switch before stress breaks you. Because the truth is, it's not here to crush you, it's here to call you higher. And ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that is moving faster than ever before. The demands on your time, your energy, your focus, and your emotions are relentless. You wake up with a to-do list already longer than the hours in your day. You're juggling work, family, health, relationships, finances, and somehow you're expected to hold it all together with a smile on your face. And if you're honest, there are moments when it feels like the weight of the world is pressing down on your chest, and no matter how much you try to breathe, it never feels like enough. That's stress. That's the silent battle that millions fight every day, and if left unchecked, it will eat away at your confidence, your health, and your spirit until you hit a wall called burnout. But today, right now, you're going to learn how to stop before you hit that wall. And stress is not your enemy. Stress is energy. Stress is life force. It's your body's way of saying something matters. Something needs your attention. The problem isn't stress itself. It's the meaning you attach to it and the way you manage it. Think about this. The same pressure that breaks one person is the exact pressure that shapes another into greatness. The difference lies not in the stress, but in the state of mind. When you feel overwhelmed, you've lost your center, your ability to decide, your clarity. But the truth is, you can flip that switch in an instant by changing your focus, your physiology, and your perspective. And let me ask you, how many times have you told yourself, I just don't have enough time? How many times have you repeated the words, I can't handle this anymore? The words you speak to yourself create the state you live in. If you tell yourself you're drowning, you'll feel like you're sinking. If you tell yourself you're overwhelmed, you'll feel crushed. But if you shift that language, if you say, this is a challenge, this is energy, this is fuel, suddenly what felt impossible becomes a mountain you're capable of climbing. Your body responds to your words, your energy responds to your focus, and stress transforms from a weight into a weapon. But here's the key. You must take back control of your state. Stress is magnified when you sit still, when you let your mind spin in endless circles of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. Your physiology locks up. Your breath becomes shallow. Your shoulders tense. And the more you sit there, the more trapped you feel. That's why the first step to breaking free from stress is movement. Get up, change your body, move with intensity, breathe deeply, do 10 push-ups, jump, run, shake your body out of paralysis. When you change your physiology, you interrupt the stress cycle. You tell your nervous system, I am in control. Stress is energy. If you don't move it, it poisons you. But if you channel it, it becomes your power. And now let's talk about focus. Stress thrives when you obsess over what you cannot control. You replay the past. You worry about the future. You stack every unfinished task on top of each other until you create a mountain so tall you can't even see the peak. No wonder you feel crushed. But ask yourself, in this moment right now, what can you control? You can control your breath. You can control your focus. And remind yourself that stress is not here to destroy you. It's here to reveal the warrior, the creator, the leader, the resilient force within you that refuses to break. You don't have to burn out. You don't have to crumble. You have the power right now to turn stress into strength and pressure into purpose. And here's what most people forget. Stress is not just mental, it's physical, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. You can't just think your way out of stress. You can't just hope it disappears. You must engage your entire being to shift it. Stress is energy trapped in motion, and energy demands release. When you allow it to build without release, it becomes tension, pain, fatigue, and eventually disconnection from who you really are. But when you learn to channel it, when you learn to move it through your body and your mind, that energy becomes fuel for transformation. And so let's start with the body. Think about the last time you were deeply stressed. Your breathing was shallow, wasn't it? Your chest was tight. Maybe your jaw was clenched. Maybe your stomach was in knots. The body keeps score, and it tells you exactly what's happening inside. The problem is most people ignore those signals. They just keep pushing harder, piling more weight on, trying to sprint through quicksand. That's why the first step is always to reset the body. Something as simple as stopping right now, closing your eyes, and taking a deep breath all the way down into your belly can interrupt the storm. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. Repeat it until your nervous system gets the message. You are safe. You are in control. You are not at the mercy of the storm. But breathing alone is not enough. Movement is the ultimate medicine for stress. When you sweat, when you stretch, when you unleash the tension stored in your muscles, you're not just exercising, you're purging your system of the toxins that stress creates. You've felt it before, that rush of clarity after a run, that release after a workout, that wave of calm after dancing, or even just shaking out your body. That's not coincidence. That's your physiology telling you that you've taken back control. The body leads the mind. If you want to master stress, you must master the rituals that move your body daily. And then there's the mind. Stress hijacks your thoughts. It convinces you that you're powerless, that the situation is too big, that you're not capable. It whispers lies in your ear until they sound like truth. But here's the reality. Your mind cannot hold two dominant emotions at once. If you're in gratitude, you cannot be in fear. If you're in determination, you cannot be in despair. That means the fastest way to kill stress is to shift your emotional state. Ask yourself different questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what can I learn from this? How can this make me stronger? What's the gift hidden in this challenge? Questions are the steering wheel of the mind. Change the question and you change the destination. And now let's confront the emotional side. Stress is often born out of suppressed emotions. You get angry but hold it in. You feel sadness but hide it. You feel fear but pretend you're fine. And what happens when you do that? Those emotions don't disappear. They become stress. They weigh you down. They steal your energy. The solution is not to bury them deeper, but to express them in a healthy way. Scream into a pillow if you must. Journal until your hand hurts. Talk to someone you trust. Cry if you need to. Emotion is motion. And when you release it, you create space inside for peace. Suppression leads to burnout. Expression leads to freedom. But the deepest layer of stress is spiritual. And I don't mean religion. I mean the sin. Sea of connection to something larger than yourself. Stress is magnified when life feels like it's all about you, your problems, your deadlines, your struggles. But the moment you step outside yourself, the moment you focus on contribution, on love, on service, the weight shifts. Because stress thrives in isolation, but it dissolves in connection. If you want to feel less overwhelmed, give more. Call someone and encourage them. Lend a hand. Share a smile. When you give, your perspective changes. The mountain shrinks because you realize you were never climbing it alone. And here's the truth. Burnout doesn't come from working hard. It comes from working hard without purpose. You can work 15 hours a day on something you love and you'll feel alive, but spend 3 hours on something meaningless and you'll feel exhausted. Stress without meaning is suffering. Stress with meaning is growth. That's why you must reconnect with your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the vision that makes all this worth it? Because if you don't have a compelling reason, the weight will crush you. But if your reason is strong enough, it won't matter how heavy it gets. You'll carry it gladly. And think about a parent holding their child in their arms after a sleepless night. They're exhausted, but they still smile. They still show up. Why? Because the meaning attached to that child is stronger than the fatigue. Stress becomes insignificant in the face of love. What's your equivalent of that? What's the purpose that makes you unstoppable? Find it, and stress will stop feeling like a prison and start feeling like a challenge worthy of your energy. And then here's a powerful truth. Most people overestimate what they can do in a day, but underestimate what they can do in a year. Stress comes from packing your schedule with so much in 24 hours that you set yourself up to fail. You chase every task, try to please everyone, and then beat yourself up for falling short. But if you zoom out, if you play the long game, you realize that consistent progress is all that matters. Not everything has to be done today. Not every battle has to be fought right now. What matters is momentum. What matters is stacking wins, no matter how small. Stress collapses when you realize you don't need to climb the entire mountain in one day. You just need to take the next step. And let's not ignore the role of environment. Stress multiplies in toxic environments. If you surround yourself with negativity, with complainers, with people who thrive on drama, you'll absorb that energy whether you realize it or not. But if you place yourself around driven, optimistic, solution-oriented people, stress becomes easier to handle because you're not carrying it alone. Your environment is either draining you or fueling you. Choose wisely. And now here's something most won't tell you. Stress is not always the problem. Sometimes the real issue is exhaustion. You're not stressed, you're depleted. You've run yourself so hard, So long with so little recovery that even small things feel overwhelming. That's why rest is not a luxury, it's a strategy. Sleep is not weakness, it's performance fuel. Recovery is not wasting time, it's preparing for greatness. If you don't fill your own cup, you can't pour into anyone else's. Make rest sacred. Protect your energy like your life depends on it, because it does. But don't confuse rest with escape. Numbing yourself with endless scrolling, binge watching, or mindless distractions doesn't reduce stress, it hides it. Real rest is intentional. It's time in nature. It's silence. It's breathing. It's connection. It's doing the things that recharge your soul instead of numbing your spirit. You don't need to escape your life. You need to rebuild it with rituals that keep you alive inside. And never forget this. Stress reveals your priorities. When everything feels urgent, when every task screams. Now, as for attention, stress forces you to ask what really matters, what's truly essential, because the truth is not everything deserves your energy. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every voice deserves space in your mind. Stress becomes manageable when you learn the art of saying no. No to distractions. No to meaningless obligations. No to the things that drain your spirit. Every yes must serve your vision. Every yes must align with who you want to become. Otherwise, it's a hidden thief stealing your peace. And when you start saying no to what doesn't serve you, stress doesn't disappear, but it becomes focused. It becomes the kind of stress that pushes you higher instead of pulling you under. And that's the kind of stress you want. That's the stress that stretches you, challenges you, and grows you into the person you're meant to be. And you are not here to live a life of constant overwhelm. You are not here to collapse under the weight of pressure. You are here to rise, to grow, to lead, to live with passion and power. Stress is not the end of you. It's the beginning of the version of you that refuses to break. And every time you face it, every time you transform it, you become unshakable. And the truth is, stress is a mirror. It reflects back to you the areas of your life that are out of alignment. When you feel it building, instead of seeing it as an enemy, use it as feedback. Ask yourself, where am I out of balance? Where am I saying yes to too much? Where am I neglecting myself? Stress is not random. It is precise. It points directly to the places that need attention. But most people don't listen. They push it aside. They medicate it with distraction. They bury it under more work until eventually their body forces them to stop. But you don't need to reach that breaking point. You can listen to the whispers before they become screams. And notice how your body signals you. The tension in your shoulders, the headaches, the fatigue, the restless nights. They're not inconveniences, they're alarms. And like any alarm, they only get louder the longer you ignore them. If you want to transform stress, you must pay attention to those signals. They are your body's way of begging you to realign, to slow down, to recover, to focus on what matters most. Ignoring them is like ignoring the fuel gauge in your car and expecting to keep driving forever. At some point you run out, and when you do, the cost is far greater than if you had just stopped to refuel. And here's the paradox. When you learn to use stress as feedback instead of resisting it, you actually find more energy, more clarity, more creativity. Because hidden inside stress is urgency. It's life pulling you to wake up, to stop drifting, to take command of your direction. Stress is energy misdirected. Redirect it, and it becomes drive. When you see stress as a signal instead of a sentence, you regain power. And think about it. Some of the greatest innovations, breakthroughs, and creations in history were born out of stress. The pressure of a deadline, the urgency of a crisis, the intensity of a challenge. These are the conditions that force people to think differently, to act boldly, to stretch beyond what they thought was possible. Stress, when harnessed, doesn't destroy you. It elevates you. It squeezes out of you the resourcefulness you didn't know you had. It calls forth your genius. It demands that you grow. But let's be honest, none of this happens if you don't take ownership. Stress becomes toxic when you believe you are powerless. When you live in the story that everything is happening to you instead of realizing that everything is happening for you. Ownership is the turning point. It's the moment you stop saying, I'm overwhelmed, and start saying, I am in charge of my response. Because no matter what life throws at you, the one thing you always control is the meaning you give it and the action you take next. That's the ultimate freedom. It's the key to ending the cycle of burnout. And now there's a pattern that fuels stress in almost everyone, the constant obsession with time. I don't have enough time. I'm running out of time. I can't keep up. That language creates panic before you've even started, but time is not the problem. Your relationship with time is. Everyone has the same 24 hours. The difference is not how much time you have, but how you use the time you've been given. Stress over time comes from trying to control the uncontrollable. You can't add more hours to a day, but you can choose how to invest the hours you have. And instead of saying, I don't have time, start saying, it's not a priority. and watch how fast your perspective shifts. Because if something truly matters, you will make time. And if it doesn't, let it go. Stress shrinks when you stop pretending everything is equally important. It's not. Some things are urgent, some are vital, and some are simply noise. The art is knowing the difference. Prioritize what drives your vision forward, what nourishes your spirit, what builds your future. Everything else is a distraction disguised as importance. And let's talk about comparison, because nothing fuels stress more than measuring your life against someone else's highlight reel. You look at others on social media, at work, even in your own family, and you convince yourself they're ahead, they're doing better, they're not struggling like you. That illusion magnifies your stress. But the truth is, everyone has their battles. Everyone has unseen struggles. Stress multiplies when you play a game you were never meant to play. Your life is not theirs. Your race is not theirs. Comparison steals your peace because it makes you blind to your own progress. And the antidote is gratitude. Gratitude kills stress because it shifts your focus from what's missing to what's present, from what's wrong to what's right. Take 30 seconds right now and think of 3 things you can be grateful for. Your heart beating, the breath in your lungs, the fact that you're still here, still fighting, still growing. Gratitude doesn't make the challenges disappear, but it changes the lens you see them through. And that lens determines whether you feel crushed or empowered. Stress shrinks when gratitude expands. And another hidden cause of stress is the need for control. You want every detail to go your way, every person to act the way you expect, every outcome to match your plan. But life doesn't work that way. And the more you cling to control, the more stressed you become. The irony is, the moment you surrender the need to control everything, you regain the ability to control yourself. Peace doesn't come from mastering the outside world. It comes from mastering your inner world. You can't control the storm, but you can control how you sail. And then part of that mastery is forgiveness. Unforgiveness is stress in disguise. Holding on to resentment, replaying old wounds, carrying bitterness, these are weights you don't even realize you're hauling around. They drain your energy. They keep your nervous system on edge. They rob you of joy. Forgiveness is not about saying what happened was okay. It's about refusing to let it poison you any longer. When you forgive, you free yourself. And when you're free, stress no longer has the same grip. And let's also confront the role of identity. So many people are stressed because they're living a life that doesn't match who they truly are. They've built an identity around being the fixer, the caretaker, the achiever, the one who never says no, the one who holds it all together. And that mask becomes a prison. Stress grows when your external life is misaligned with your internal truth. The path to peace is authenticity. Stop living for who you think you should be and start living as who you really are. When your identity matches your actions, stress dissolves because there is no longer a battle inside you. And remember this, stress is not solved by doing more. It's solved by being more present, being more intentional, being more connected. You don't need to stack more hours, more tasks, more obligations. You need to deepen the quality of the moments you already have. Stress tricks you into believing life is about quantity. Peace reminds you it's about depth. And so the next time you feel the pressure building, stop, breathe, move. Ask yourself, what is this stress trying to teach me? What's the lesson? Where am I out of alignment? What do I need to let go of? When you ask those questions, you transform stress into a teacher instead of a tormentor. And never forget, the human spirit is unbreakable when it decides to rise. You have faced storms before, you have been under pressure before, and yet here you are, still standing, still breathing, still growing. That means you are stronger than the stress you feel. That means you have what it takes to not only handle it, but to harness it, to transform it into fuel, to use it as a stepping stone toward the life you deserve. And then here's the part most people miss. Stress is not here to punish you. It's here to prepare you. Every wave that crashes into you is shaping you into someone who can stand stronger, speak louder, move faster, and live deeper. The very fact that you feel stress means you are in the game. You are on the field. You are not sitting on the sidelines watching life pass you by. Stress is proof that you are stretching beyond the ordinary, that you're daring to step into a space where growth happens, but only if you decide to see it that way. And stress only destroys those who refuse to adapt. It only burns out those who hold on to old patterns while life is screaming at them to change. Think about it. When the river rises, you either learn to swim stronger or you let it sweep you away. Stress is life's way of teaching you to swim. It is building your capacity. It is testing your resilience. And resilience isn't built in calm seas. It's forged in the storm. But let's get brutally honest. One of the biggest reasons stress consumes people is because they attach their worth to their performance. If they succeed, they feel valuable. If they fall short, they feel worthless. That constant evaluation creates a pressure cooker inside. You cannot thrive if your identity is chained to outcomes. Stress magnifies when you define yourself by results instead of by the truth of who you are. Your worth does not rise and fall with your achievements. You were valuable the day you took your first breath, and nothing can add to that or subtract from it. When you anchor into that truth, stress loses its sharpest edge. And at the same time, don't confuse worth with complacency. Knowing you are enough doesn't mean you stop striving. It means you strive from a place of strength instead of desperation. It means you take on challenges not to prove you're worthy, but because growth excites you, because contribution fulfills you, because living fully is what you're here for. When you stop trying to prove and start choosing to grow, stress transforms from a burden into a privilege. And now let's dive into another cause of stress that's often hidden: unmade decisions. Nothing drains energy faster than indecision. The constant loop of should I do this, should I do that, what if I'm wrong, what if I fail, eats away at your focus and creates an invisible pressure that grows heavier every day you delay. The longer you wait, the heavier it feels. But the moment you decide, even if it's imperfect, the weight lifts. Clarity is power, and clarity only comes through decision. Stop waiting for the perfect choice. Stress is multiplied by hesitation. Relief is created by commitment. And then there's procrastination. How many times has stress multiplied in your life simply because you pushed something off until the last moment? You built it up in your mind until it became a monster far scarier than it really was. But the truth is, stress from procrastination is self-inflicted. The cure? Action. Even small action, because action dissolves fear. Action silences doubt. Action turns stress into momentum. The longer you wait, the louder stress screams. The sooner you act, the sooner it quiets down. And here's something powerful. You can reframe stress into excitement. Physiologically, they are almost identical. Your heart races, your palms sweat, your breath quickens. The difference is the meaning you attach. Tell yourself, I'm stressed, and your body prepares for collapse. Tell yourself, I'm excited, and your body prepares for performance. The same energy that could paralyze you can instead propel you forward if you choose a different meaning. Stress and excitement are two sides of the same coin. Flip it in your mind, and you flip it in your life. And another source of stress comes from living in the future instead of the present. You replay worst-case scenarios. You imagine failures that haven't happened. You live in a tomorrow that may never come. That creates anxiety because the future is a place you can never control. The only place you can act is now. And when you return to the present, stress loses its grip. In this moment, are you safe? In this moment, can you breathe? In this moment, can you take one step forward? The answer is always yes. Stress fades when you anchor yourself here, not there. But it's not just the future. Stress also comes from living in the past. Regret, shame, guilt, replaying what could have been. You cannot change what has already happened. Stress lingers when you keep reliving it. The only thing you can change is the meaning you give to it. If you call it failure, it weighs you down. If you call it a lesson, it builds you up. The past is not a prison unless you choose to stay locked inside it. Stress dissolves the moment you choose to extract wisdom instead of replaying wounds. And here's another truth. Many people live under stress because they underestimate themselves. They believe the lie that they're not strong enough, not smart enough, not capable enough, and every challenge feels like proof of that lie. But what if you believe the opposite? What if every challenge was proof of how strong you are becoming? What if every obstacle was evidence that life trusted you with more? Stress grows when you see yourself as smaller than the problem. Stress shrinks when you see yourself as greater than the challenge. You always have more inside you than you think. Stress is not a sign you can't handle it. It's a sign you're being invited to rise to who you really are. And you must also recognize the role of boundaries. Much of the stress people carry is not even theirs. They carry the weight of other people's expectations, other people's demands, other people's drama. They say yes when they should say no. They absorb negativity that isn't theirs to hold, and over time that crushes them. But boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are gates to protect your energy, your purpose, your peace. Stress lessens when you choose what you will and will not allow. Every boundary you create is a declaration of self-respect. And another powerful way to dismantle stress is through rituals of renewal. You cannot pour endlessly without filling back up. Just like an athlete trains hard but then recovers intentionally, you must balance effort with restoration. Rituals of renewal are not luxuries, they're necessities. Whether it's meditation, journaling, prayer, silence, music, nature, or simple laughter, these are the practices that refill your spirit. When you neglect them, stress compounds. When you prioritize them, stress becomes manageable because your tank is never empty. And let's not forget the role of courage. Stress often comes from fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of loss, and fear is just the anticipation of pain. But courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. Every time you choose courage, stress loses ground. Every time you lean into what you fear instead of running from it, you reclaim power. The fastest way to collapse stress is to do the very thing it's trying to keep you from doing. Because once you do it, the monster shrinks. Fear evaporates in the presence of action. And here's something even deeper. Stress can be healed through meaning. Viktor Frankl, a man who endured unthinkable suffering, said those who had a strong enough why could bear almost any how. Your why is your anchor in the storm. Without it, stress pulls you under. With it, stress becomes a current that carries you forward. Every time you remind yourself of your why, your family, your vision, your mission, your dream, you turn stress into fuel. Purpose doesn't erase stress, but it gives it context, and context changes everything. But let's take it one step further. Beyond meaning, there's love. Love is the greatest dissolver of stress. When you focus on love for your family, love for your friends, love for life itself, you shift into a state that stress cannot survive in. Love expands your heart. Stress tightens it. Love opens possibilities. Stress closes them. Love reminds you what matters. Stress distracts you with what doesn't. The more you live in love, the less stress can dominate your life. And then never forget, you are built for this. You were not placed here to crumble. You were not designed to collapse. Everything inside you is equipped to handle the weight, not by avoiding it, but by transforming it. Stress is not your enemy, it is your sculptor. It is chiseling away the unnecessary, revealing the strength, the resilience, the clarity that has always been within you. Every time you choose to stand instead of break, every time you breathe instead of panic, every time you move forward instead of freeze, you are proving to yourself and the world that you are stronger than stress, greater than overwhelm, and destined for more than burnout.